The research ship Pathfinder floated quietly among Saturn's distant moons. Commander Lisa Grant stared at the strange readings on her screen. She had been in space for 12 years, but she had never seen anything like this. "John, are you seeing this?" she called to her engineer. John Miller looked up from his station. His eyes widened. "That can't be right. The energy signature is off the charts." Lisa tapped her screen. "Kim, what do you think this is?" Science Officer Kimberly Patel shook her head. "It's not natural, Commander. Something is creating these energy waves on purpose." The Pathfinder was a small ship with a crew of just 20 people. They were not ready for anything dangerous. They were scientists, not soldiers. "Sam, try to send a message toward the source," Lisa ordered. "Standard. Greeting package." Communications Specialist Sam Rodriguez nodded and began working at his station. His fingers moved quickly across the screen. "Message sent, Commander. No response yet." Lisa stood up and walked to the main window. Saturn's rings glowed in the distance, beautiful and peaceful. But now something else was out there. Something unknown. "Commander," Sam called suddenly. "We're getting a response. But it's not like anything I've ever seen." The main screen filled with strange symbols and patterns. They shifted and changed in ways that hurt the eyes. "It's a language," Kim said, her voice filled with excitement. "An alien language." The crew fell silent. Humans had never made contact with aliens before. There had been signs and hints over the years, but never direct contact. "Can we translate it?" Lisa asked. Kim and Sam worked together for hours. The rest of the crew gathered around, watching and waiting. Finally, Sam looked up. "It's not perfect, but we think we understand part of it. It's a distress call." Lisa leaned forward. "A distress call? From whom?" "From a fleet of ships," Kim explained. "They say they're trapped in some kind of space anomaly. They call themselves the Valoran Collective." John whistled. "A fleet? How many ships?" "More than 30, Sam said. "And they're in trouble." Lisa ordered the Pathfinder to move closer to the source of the signal. As they approached, they saw it a swirling distortion in space. Inside it, barely visible, were dozens of massive ships. They were unlike anything humans had built. They were elegant and clearly advanced, with shapes that seemed to bend in impossible ways. "They're being crushed," John said quietly. "That anomaly is like a giant trash compactor, and it's slowly squeezing them to death." Lisa made a decision. "Sam, send a message. Tell them we want to help." The response came quickly this time. The alien commander, who called himself Zex Tala, appeared on their screen. He looked almost human, but with blue-tinted skin and eyes that reflected light like a cat's. "You are humans?" Zex Tala asked in broken English. Their translation system was learning quickly. "From Earth?" "Yes," Lisa replied. "We detected your distress signal. We want to help." Sextala seemed confused. "Earth is not a spacefaring world. You are classified as pre-contact civilization." "Well, we might not be as advanced as you, but we've been exploring our solar system for decades," Lisa said with a small smile. "And right now, we're the only help you've got." The alien commander looked around at something off-screen, then turned back. "We have been trapped for 23 of your Earth days. Our energy reserves are nearly gone. The anomaly disrupts our technology. We cannot escape." "How did you get trapped?" John asked. "We were testing a new form of travel," Zexatala explained. "A mistake was made. Now we are dying." Lisa studied the situation. The Pathfinder wasn't equipped for rescue operations, especially not for so many ships. But she couldn't just leave them. "Zexatala, we don't have the resources on this ship to help you," she said honestly. "But we can return to Earth and bring help." "There is no time," the alien said. "The anomaly grows stronger each day." John stepped forward. "Commander, if I could study their technology and the anomaly, maybe I could come up with something temporary. Something to buy us time." Lisa nodded. "Zextala, would you allow my engineer to come aboard your ship?" He might be able to help slow down the anomaly while we get more help. The alien hesitated, then agreed. John prepared for the transfer to the alien ship. He looked nervous but excited. Be careful, Lisa told him. And remember, you represent all of humanity now. No pressure, John muttered with a weak smile. The alien sent a small shuttle to collect John. It moved through the edge of the anomaly with difficulty, shaking and struggling against invisible forces. While John was on the alien flagship, Lisa contacted Earth. The message would take time to reach home, but she had to try. This is Commander Lisa Grant of the Pathfinder. We have made contact with an alien fleet in distress near Saturn, requesting immediate assistance and instructions. Hours later, John returned with both good and bad news. Their technology is amazing, he said, his eyes wide with wonder. But the anomaly is worse than we thought. It's like a whirlpool in space, pulling everything toward its center. Their ships are being torn apart molecule by molecule. Can we help them? Lisa asked. Maybe, John said. They have a theory about using gravity to counteract the anomaly, but their gravity generators are failing. If Earth could send our experimental gravity anchor technology, we might be able to stabilize the anomaly long enough for them to escape. Lisa looked at her crew. They were scientists facing an impossible situation, but they were also humans, and humans didn't abandon others in need. Sam, send a message to Earth. Tell them exactly what we need and tell them to hurry. As the message sped toward Earth, Lisa looked out at the trapped alien fleet. Those ships held thousands of lives, families, children, all depending now on human help. Hold on, she whispered to the distant ships. We're not giving up on you. On the main screen, the anomaly pulsed and grew slightly larger. They were running out of time. The human rescue fleet pushed their engines beyond safe limits. Warning lights flashed on control panels. Engineers worked around the clock to keep the ships from falling apart. They gained speed, but it might not be enough. On the lead ship Explorer, Captain Greg Winters made a bold decision. We're going to use the emergency warp drive, he announced to his shocked crew. Sir, it's never been tested at full power, his first officer reminded him. Greg nodded grimly. Today it will be. Prepare. The drive. The emergency warp drive was a new technology, designed only for short jumps in extreme situations. Using it for a long-distance jump was dangerous, but Greg saw no alternative. All crew to secure positions, he ordered. Warp jump in 5 minutes. He sent a message to the other ships in the fleet. Continue at maximum speed. Explorer attempting emergency jump to reach aliens ahead of schedule. Will report if successful. On Earth, NASA Director Alan Whitman received this message with his heart in his throat. He's going to try a full warp jump, he asked no one in particular. That's never been done before. If it works, they'll reach Saturn in hours instead of days, someone pointed out. And if it doesn't work, we lose the Explorer and everyone on board, Alan replied quietly. On the Explorer, the crew braced for the jump. Chief Engineer Paul Dixon made final adjustments to the warp drive, his hands steady despite his fear. Ready, Captain, he reported. Greg took a deep breath. Engage warp drive. The stars outside the window stretched into lines. The ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared as the hull creaked under pressure it was never designed to withstand. For 3 terrifying minutes, the Explorer seemed ready to tear itself apart. Then suddenly everything calmed. Outside the window, Saturn loomed large. We made it, Greg said in disbelief. Damage report. The ship had suffered severe damage. The warp drive was completely burned out. Several systems were offline. But they had arrived. Send a message to the Pathfinder, Greg ordered. Tell them we're here. On the Pathfinder, Commander Lisa Grant received the message with stunned relief. The Explorer is here? She repeated. How is that possible? They used their experimental warp drive, Sam explained. They're damaged but operational. Lisa wasted no time. She opened a channel to the Explorer. Captain Winters, your timing is perfect. The aliens are down to their last 12 hours of power. The explorer moved closer to the anomaly where the alien fleet floated helplessly. From this distance, they could see how bad the situation truly was. Several alien ships had already been crushed. The others were visibly bending under the pressure. "We need to deploy the gravity anchor immediately," Paul Dixon said. "But we only have one. The other ships won't arrive for 3 more days." Greg thought quickly. "Can we modify it to have more power, enough to at least slow down the anomaly until the other ships arrive?" Paul looked uncertain. "Maybe, but we'd need help understanding how the anomaly works." "I can help with that," offered a new voice. It was Krelvor, an alien engineer who had been working with John Miller on the Pathfinder. The alien's image appeared on their screen. He looked similar to Commander Zexitala, but with darker blue skin and strange markings around his eyes. "Your gravity technology is primitive," Krelvor said bluntly, "but it might work if we combine it with our knowledge of spatial anomalies." Greg ignored the insult. "We're open to suggestions." For the next 6 hours, Paul and Krelvor worked together over video link. They developed a plan to modify the single gravity anchor to emit a focused beam that could temporarily stabilize part of the anomaly, just enough to create an escape path for some of the alien ships. "It won't save everyone," Paul explained to Greg, "but it might save some." Greg nodded. "Let's do it." The modified gravity anchor was loaded onto a small shuttle. Someone would need to pilot it right to the edge of the anomaly. A dangerous mission. "I'll do it," Greg offered, but Paul shook his head. "I need to make manual adjustments as we go. I'll pilot the shuttle." Before Greg could argue, Krelvor spoke up. "I must go too. Our technologies must work in perfect sync." The plan was risky. The shuttle would approach the anomaly. Paul would activate the gravity anchor while Krelvor synchronized it with the alien's remaining power systems. If it worked, a narrow path would open, allowing some ships to escape. "Which ships go first?" Greg asked Zextala. The alien commander didn't hesitate. "The nursery ships, with our young ones." Greg nodded with approval. The aliens prioritized their children, just as humans would. The shuttle launched from the Explorer. Paul piloted it carefully toward the swirling distortion in space. Beside him, Krelvor worked on a strange device that would link their systems. "Are all humans this willing to risk their lives for strangers?" Krelvor asked as they approached the anomaly. Paul shrugged. "Most of us, I think. We help when we can." The alien seemed puzzled by this. "Even though we are not human?" "You're people," Paul replied simply. "That's enough." As they reached the edge of the anomaly, the shuttle began to shake. Warning lights flashed as the strange forces pulled at them. "Now," Paul shouted, activating the gravity anchor. The device powered up, glowing brightly. Krelvor connected it to his equipment. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a section of the anomaly began to stabilize. "It's working," Paul reported back to the Explorer. "Tell the nursery ships to move toward our position." 2 large alien vessels slowly began moving toward the stabilized path. But as they did, the gravity anchor started to overheat. "We're losing power," Paul warned. "The anchor can't handle the strain." Krelvor worked frantically at his console. "We need more energy," Paul thought quickly. "The shuttle's power core. We can connect it directly." "That would leave us without power to return," Krelvor pointed out. Paul nodded grimly. "I know." Without hesitation, he rerouted the shuttle's power to the gravity anchor. The stabilized path widened slightly. The 2 nursery ships moved closer to freedom. On the Explorer, Greg watched the power readings from the shuttle drop to critical levels. They're sacrificing their way back, he realized. The first nursery ship passed through the stabilized area and broke free of the anomaly. The second followed close behind. Together, they carried over 5,000 alien children to safety, but the shuttle's power was failing fast. The gravity anchor began to flicker. Just then, another ship appeared. It was the Horizon, one of the human rescue fleet. It had pushed its engine so hard that several had failed completely, but it had arrived. "This is Captain Susan Lee of the Horizon," a voice called over the radio. We have a gravity anchor ready to deploy. The Horizon moved into position and activated its gravity anchor. The stabilized path widened again. More alien ships began to move toward freedom. In the shuttle, Paul and Krelvor watched with relief. "Your friends are just in time," the alien said. Paul smiled tiredly. "Humans have a habit of that." The explorer's sensors detected a problem developing. The anomaly was reacting to the gravity anchors, becoming more violent around the edges. The shuttle was directly in the path of this increased activity. "Paul, you need to get out of there now," Greg called urgently. "Can't," Paul replied calmly. "No power, remember? We gave it to the anchor." Greg ordered a rescue team to prepare, but Paul stopped him. "There's no time. Just keep getting those ships out." On the third day, the rest of the human fleet arrived. They deployed their gravity anchors in a perfect formation around the anomaly, creating a stable corridor for escape. The remaining alien ships moved through one by one. Some were badly damaged. Others barely had power, but they made it through. In all the activity, few noticed when the anomaly surged suddenly, engulfing the small shuttle with Paul and Krelvor inside. By then, they had helped save over 20 alien ships carrying thousands of lives. When the last alien ship escaped, Captain Greg Winters gave the order to deactivate the gravity anchors. The anomaly collapsed in on itself and vanished, taking with it all evidence of the brave sacrifice made by a human engineer and an alien technician. The rescued alien fleet regrouped near Saturn's largest moon. The human ships floated nearby, their mission accomplished but at a heavy cost. Commander Zex Tala opened a channel to all human vessels. "People of Earth," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "you have saved us when no one else would or could. We owe you a debt that can never be repaid." Greg Winters looked at the alien fleet. Massive ships built by a civilization far more advanced than humanity. Yet it had been humans who saved them, using creativity and courage to overcome technological limitations. "We only did what anyone would do," he replied, though he knew that wasn't entirely true. Not everyone would risk everything for strangers from another world. As the human and alien ships prepared to return to Earth, a message arrived from NASA Director Alan Whitman. It was simple but perfect. "Mission accomplished, come home, bring our new friends." The message from the Pathfinder took 80 minutes to reach Earth. When it arrived, it caused chaos. NASA Director Alan Whitman was woken from sleep at 3:17 in the morning. He rushed to the control center in his pajamas with a coat thrown over them. "Play it again," he ordered, still not believing what he had heard. The tired-looking technician nodded and replayed Commander Grant's message. The control room was silent as they listened to her describe the alien fleet trapped near Saturn. "Is this real?" Alan asked when it finished. "Yes, sir," the technician replied. "We've confirmed it's the Pathfinder, and we've detected the energy anomaly they're talking about." Alan ran his hand through his messy hair. "Get me the president and the UN secretary, and hell, get me everyone." Within hours, the world's leaders were holding an emergency meeting. Some wanted to ignore the aliens. Others wanted to help. The military leaders warned of danger. "These aliens could be lying," General Peter Wright said firmly. "This could be a trick to get our technology. Or they could be genuinely in need of help," argued Dr. Helen Young, a leading physicist. "This is first contact, people. How we respond will define humanity to the galaxy." The debate raged for hours until the president finally spoke. "We help them," she said simply. "That's what humans do. We help when someone is in trouble." Plans formed quickly after that. NASA and space agencies around the world began preparing ships. But there was a problem. The gravity anchors that John Miller had suggested using were still experimental. Earth only had 2 working models. "We need at least 5. Dr. Frank Howard explained to the emergency response team. 2 isn't enough to stabilize the anomaly." "How long to build more?" Alan asked. "Months, normally," Frank replied grimly. "And they have days at most." That's when Olivia Morrison stepped in. The billionaire owner of Star Reach, a private space company, had been listening quietly. "My company," Has 3 prototype gravity anchors, she said. They're not certified yet, but they work. I'll donate them. Alan looked at her in surprise. That's very generous, but why? Olivia smiled. Because there are aliens out there who need our help. Isn't that reason enough? With the gravity anchors secured, the next challenge was adapting them to work with alien technology. Chief Engineer Paul Dixon was called in to lead the effort. Paul was a quiet man with clever hands. He had helped design the original gravity anchors. Now he worked day and night to modify them, based on John Miller's descriptions of the alien systems. It's like trying to connect our computers to technology 1,000 years more advanced, Paul explained to Alan during a rare break. But we're finding ways. While Paul worked, ships were prepared for the rescue mission. Every space-capable nation contributed. Crews volunteered despite the risks. They would be traveling to the edge of the solar system to save aliens no human had ever met before. Meanwhile, at Saturn, the situation grew worse. The anomaly expanded, crushing the outer ships of the alien fleet. Commander Lisa Grant and her crew watched helplessly as one of the smaller alien vessels crumpled like a tin can. How many were on board? Lisa asked when she contacted Zexistala. 43, the alien commander replied, his voice heavy. A research team. Lisa closed her eyes briefly. I'm sorry. Help is coming from Earth. Please hold on. Zexistala seemed surprised. Your leaders have agreed to help us? Without knowing who we are? That's what humans do, Lisa said simply. Back on Earth, a reporter asked Alan Whitman a similar question during a press conference. Why risk human lives for aliens we know nothing about? Alan thought for a moment before answering. If you saw a stranger drowning, would you stop to ask who they were before helping? These aliens are people too, just different from us. And they're drowning. The reporter had no response to that. 7 days after receiving the distress call, Earth was ready. 5 ships carried the modified gravity anchors. They were the fastest vessels humans had ever built, but the journey to Saturn would still take weeks. Paul Dixon boarded the lead ship, the Explorer, along with a team of engineers. They would continue working during the journey. Good luck, Alan told them at the launch pad. The whole world is watching. Paul nodded nervously. No pressure, right? As the rescue fleet prepared to launch, a message arrived from the Pathfinder. It contained new information about the aliens. They're refugees, Lisa reported. Their home system star became unstable. They were searching for a new world when they got trapped. This news spread quickly. Across Earth, people held vigils and sent messages of support. Children made drawings of the alien ships. Religious leaders prayed for the rescue mission. In space, the Explorer and its companion ships accelerated toward Saturn. Every day they received updates from the Pathfinder. Every day the news grew worse. 3 more ships lost, the message read on day 5 of the journey. Anomaly growing faster now. Paul Dixon barely slept. He and his team made constant adjustments to the gravity anchors based on new data. Sometimes he would stare out the window, at the stars, wondering about the aliens they were racing to save. Do you think we'll make it in time? A young engineer named Maria asked him one day. Paul looked at his tired team, then back at the starfield outside. We have to, he said simply. On the 10th day of the journey, a message came from Zexistala himself. It was directed not to the rescue fleet, but to all of Earth. People of Earth, the alien commander said in his still imperfect English. I wish to thank you. Many worlds would ignore strangers in trouble. Some would take advantage of our weakness. But you come to help, without asking for payment or making demands. Whether we survive or not, know that the Valoran Collective will remember Earth's kindness. The message touched millions, but it also made the rescue mission more personal. Now Earth had a face and a voice to connect with the distant aliens fighting for survival. On day 14, disaster struck. The alien flagship's main power core failed. Without it, their remaining ships would lose the force fields barely holding back the anomaly's crushing power. We have emergency power for 3 days, Zexistala informed the approaching rescue fleet. No more. Alan Whitman received this news with a heavy heart. The rescue ships were still 5 days away at top speed. Can they go any faster? He asked. His team. They're already pushing past safety limits, someone replied. The engines could fail. Alan made a difficult decision. Tell them to increase speed again, whatever the risk. On the Explorer, Paul Dixon received the order. Sir, the engines weren't designed for this kind of stress. An engineer protested. And those aliens weren't designed to be crushed to death. Paul replied. Push the engines. The rescue fleet accelerated once more, their engines glowing dangerously bright. They were now 4 days away from Saturn, but the aliens had only 3 days of power left. The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks. The alien ships moved slowly, many of them damaged from their time in the anomaly. The human vessels stayed with them, helping with repairs when possible. Commander Zex Tala was surprised when Captain Greg Winters invited him to board the Explorer for a meeting. You trust me on your ship? Zex Tala asked. You know nothing about me or my people. Greg smiled. We just risked our lives to save yours. I think we can risk a meeting. The alien commander came aboard with 2 assistants. They seemed nervous. As they walked through the human ship, they touched nothing and kept close together. Your technology is interesting, Zex Tala said politely, though his tone suggested he found it primitive. Greg led them to a meeting room where Commander Lisa Grant from the Pathfinder was waiting. Together they discussed what would happen when they reached Earth. Our ships need repairs, Zex Tala explained. We have lost many of our engineers. His voice grew quiet as he thought of Krelvor and others who had died. Earth will help you, Lisa promised. But I should warn you, our planet has never had contact with aliens before. People will be excited, maybe a little scared too. Zex Tala seemed surprised again. You mean your leaders agreed to help us without consulting your people? Greg nodded. They did what they thought was right. The public supported it once they understood the situation. The alien commander was quiet for a moment. In the Galactic Assembly, such a decision would require months of debate. The what? Lisa asked. The Galactic Assembly, a coalition of spacefaring civilizations. We are part of it. Zex Tala looked uncomfortable. Earth is classified as a pre-contact world. We were not supposed to reveal ourselves to you for at least another 50 years. Greg laughed. Well, I guess the cat's out of the bag now. The alien tilted his head in confusion at the expression, but continued. Yes. And when the Assembly learns what has happened, they will be concerned. As they approached Earth, excitement grew on both sides. Humans prepared for the arrival of actual aliens. The aliens prepared to visit a world they had only studied from a distance. News of their approach spread quickly. People gathered in large groups to watch the sky. World leaders prepared speeches. Scientists readied questions. Dr. Amanda Ross led a medical team that would be the first to meet the aliens face to face. They set up in a large open field where the smaller alien shuttles could land safely. Remember, Amanda told her team, they might look like us in some ways, but their biology could be completely different. Be respectful but cautious. When the first alien shuttle landed, a hush fell over the crowd of officials and medical staff. The door opened slowly, and Commander Zex Tala stepped out. He blinked in the bright sunlight. Earth's air was different from what he was used to, but his people could breathe it. He walked down the ramp and approached the waiting humans. On behalf of the Valoran Collective, he said formally, I thank the people of Earth for their help and hospitality. NASA Director Alan Whitman stepped forward. On behalf of Earth, welcome to our world, Commander. More aliens emerged from the shuttle. Some walked normally, others needed help, injured from their ordeal in the anomaly. Dr. Ross and her team moved forward to offer assistance. One young alien female was carried out on a stretcher. She looked very weak. Amanda approached her carefully. May I? She asked, showing her medical scanner. The alien nodded weakly. Amanda ran the scanner over her, frowning at the results. Her body chemistry is very different from ours, she told her team. But I think she's suffering from something similar to radiation poisoning. Amanda reached into her medical kit and prepared a treatment that might help. She had studied the limited information about alien biology sent by the Pathfinder crew. "This might help with the pain," she explained to the alien. "May I try?" Again, the alien nodded. Amanda gently administered the treatment. Within minutes, the alien's breathing eased and her color improved. "Thank you," she whispered and accented. English. News of Dr. Ross's successful treatment spread quickly through the alien group. Soon, more injured aliens came forward for help. Earth's simple medicine sometimes worked better than the aliens' own treatments, which had been designed for different types of injuries. Over the next few days, a temporary camp was established. Human and alien engineers worked together to assess the damage to the alien ships. Even with their advanced technology, repairs would take months. "We can't fix everything with what we have here," a human engineer named Bill explained to his team. "Their technology is too different." Commander Zexitala overheard this. "Perhaps we can help each other," he suggested. "In gratitude for your rescue, we could share some of our technology." This offer caused excitement among the humans, but some were cautious. "Are you allowed to do that?" Lisa Grant asked. "You mentioned rules about pre-contact worlds." Zextala made a gesture similar to a shrug. "The rules have already been broken, and we owe you our lives." The technology exchange began slowly. The aliens were careful not to share anything too advanced. They focused on medical technology, clean energy, and better materials for building. Humans shared their unique approaches to problems. The aliens were surprised by how humans often found simple solutions to complex issues. "Your people think differently," Karazin, an alien scientist, told a group of human engineers. "You see connections we miss because we are too focused on complex answers." Cultural exchange happened alongside technological exchange. Humans learned about alien art, music, and food. The aliens learned about human history, sports, and entertainment. There were misunderstandings too. An alien visitor accidentally started a small fire when she tried to charge her device using a human power outlet. A human diplomat offended an alien leader by trying to shake hands with someone whose culture found physical contact offensive. But these problems were overcome with patience and good humor. Both sides wanted the relationship to work. John Miller, who had first suggested using gravity anchors to save the aliens, became especially close with the alien engineers. He spent hours learning about their technology. "They're teaching me things that would have taken us decades to discover on our own," he told Lisa excitedly. Not everyone on Earth welcomed the aliens. Small protest groups formed, claiming the aliens might bring disease or try to take over. Security around the alien camp was increased. When Commander Zextala learned of these protests, he was troubled. "Perhaps we should leave sooner," he suggested, to Alan Whitman. "No," Alan said firmly. "Those protesters are a tiny minority. Most people are thrilled you're here." To prove his point, Alan arranged for Zexitala to visit a local school. The children had been learning about the aliens and were eager to meet one. Zextala entered the classroom nervously. He had never interacted with young humans before. 30 small faces stared up at him with wide eyes. "Hello," he said awkwardly. "I am Commander Zexitala of the Valoran Collective." A small girl raised her hand. "Do you miss your home?" she asked, innocently. The question caught him by surprise. "Yes," he admitted. "Very much. Our home star was dying. We had to leave." "You can share our star," the girl offered simply. "There's plenty of room." Zextala was touched by the child's kindness. As he answered more questions from the curious children, he relaxed. They weren't afraid of him. They just wanted to know about his world, his family, his favorite foods. When he returned to the alien camp, Zexitala seemed changed. "These humans," he told his officers, "they have a quality we have lost, an openness, a willingness to accept others." As the weeks passed, both humans and aliens settled into a routine. Repairs on the alien ships continued. Cultural exchanges grew deeper. Friendships formed. Dr. Amanda Ross worked closely with alien medical officers to treat the remaining injured. She learned that alien biology was both similar to and very different from human biology. Their cells can repair damage in ways ours can't, she explained to her medical team. But they're more sensitive to certain types of radiation that hardly affect us. One day a message arrived from deep space. It was addressed to Commander Zex Tala. His expression grew serious as he read it. The Galactic Assembly has learned of our contact with Earth, he told Alan and Lisa during their daily meeting. They are sending representatives to assess the situation. Is that bad? Alan asked. Zex Tala chose his words carefully. It is unprecedented. Earth was not scheduled for first contact for many years. They will want to know how humans handled the situation, and they will want to know more about your people. Lisa smiled confidently. Let them come. We have nothing to hide. As the 3-month mark of the aliens' stay on Earth approached, most of their ships were nearly repaired. Humans had helped in ways the aliens hadn't expected, finding creative solutions to problems their own engineers might have overthought. But more importantly, understanding had grown between the two species. They were different in many ways, but alike in the ways that mattered most. Whatever the Galactic Assembly decides, Zex Tala told Alan during a sunset walk near the camp, know that the Valoran will always consider humans friends. Alan watched the sun sink below the horizon. You know, he said. The Galactic Assembly ship arrived a week later. It was larger than any of the Valoran vessels, with a design that seemed to bend light around it. It settled into orbit around Earth without requesting permission. That's a bit rude, Lisa Grant observed as she watched the ship on the tracking screen. Commander Zex Tala looked uncomfortable. The Assembly does not ask permission from pre-contact worlds. Well, we are not pre-contact anymore, are we? Lisa replied with a slight edge to her voice. A message came from the Assembly ship. 3 representatives would come to Earth's surface to evaluate the situation. They expected to meet with Earth's leaders and Commander Zex Tala. The landing site was prepared carefully. World leaders gathered along with scientists, military officers, and the humans who had been most involved in the rescue operation. Security was tight but unobtrusive. The assembly shuttle was unlike any ship humans had seen before. It made no sound as it descended. It seemed to float rather than fly. It landed gently on the prepared pad. 3 beings emerged. They looked nothing alike. One was tall and thin with 4 arms and silvery skin. Another was short and round with no visible eyes. The third looked almost human, except for the golden patterns that shifted across its skin like moving tattoos. The assembly includes 27 different species, Zex Tala explained quietly to the Earth officials. These 3 represent the High Council. The representatives approached. They did not introduce themselves or offer any greeting. Instead, the tall silvery one spoke directly to Zex Tala in a language humans couldn't understand. Commander Zex Tala replied respectfully but firmly. He gestured toward the human leaders. The assembly representatives seemed unwilling to acknowledge them. What's happening? The president whispered to Zex Tala. They are displeased with the situation, he replied quietly. They believe contact should not have happened yet. Tell them we're ready to speak for ourselves, NASA Director Alan Whitman said firmly. Zex Tala hesitated, then translated Alan's words. The assembly representatives finally turned their attention to the humans. The one with shifting golden patterns stepped forward. I am Enlara of the Jurun, she said in perfect English. This is Zeeth of the Mendar and Volu of the Treen. We are here to assess the damage done by this premature contact. Damage? Lisa Grant stepped forward. We saved lives. How is that damage? And Lara regarded her coolly. Interfering with the natural development of a pre-contact species violates our most important law. Earth was to be left alone for at least 50 more years. With all due respect, the president said calmly, we are not asking for your permission to exist. Our people chose to help others in need. That's who we are. The assembly representatives conferred among themselves in their own language. Then Lara spoke again. We will observe your world and your interactions with the Valoran refugees. Then we will decide what restrictions must be put in place. For the next 2 weeks, the Assembly representatives watched everything. They observed human-alien interactions. They reviewed records of the rescue operation. They studied Earth's governments, cultures, and technologies. They rarely spoke to humans directly, preferring to communicate through Commander Zexitala. This frustrated the Earth officials, who felt they were being judged without being heard. They treat us like we're children, Lisa complained to Zexitala after a particularly difficult meeting. We saved your people when they wouldn't even answer. Your distress call. Zexitala looked troubled. The Assembly has strict protocols, but he hesitated. I have voiced my concerns about their approach. Meanwhile, life continued in the joint human-alien community. Engineers worked on the final repairs to the alien ships. Scientists exchanged knowledge. Families formed friendships that crossed species boundaries. Dr. Amanda Ross now led a joint medical research team. They had made several breakthroughs by combining human and alien approaches to medicine. We've developed a treatment for a disease that has plagued the Valoran for generations, she explained excitedly to John Miller. And they've helped us understand cancer in ways we never could have on our own. John nodded. He had been working with alien engineers to develop new energy systems. It's the same with the technology exchange. We think differently, solve problems differently. Together, we're better than either of us alone. The Assembly representatives watched all of this, but remained aloof. They collected data but showed no emotion. 2 days before they were scheduled to announce their decision, something unexpected happened. An alien child wandered away from the camp and became lost in a nearby forest. She was the daughter of a high-ranking Valoran officer. When her absence was discovered, search parties formed immediately. Humans and aliens worked together, using both species' technologies to scan the dense woods. The Assembly representatives observed but did not help. They simply watched as the search grew more desperate with the approach of nightfall. Lisa Grant organized search teams with specific areas to cover. John Miller adapted sensors to detect the unique body heat of a Valoran child. Local volunteers brought dogs to help track by scent. Hours passed with no sign of the child. The forest was large and thick with undergrowth. The temperature was dropping as night fell. Then one of the search dogs picked up a scent. A team led by a local forest ranger followed the dog to a steep ravine. At the bottom, barely visible in the growing darkness, was the small blue form of the alien child. She was injured and couldn't climb out. The ravine was too steep and unstable for an adult to climb down safely. As they considered options, the child's condition seemed to worsen. She's going into shock, Dr. Ross said, checking her medical scanner. Valoran children can't regulate their body temperature like adults can. We need to reach her now. Before anyone could stop him, John Miller began climbing down the unstable slope. Rocks slid beneath his feet. Branches broke in his hands. John, it's too dangerous, Lisa called after him. We didn't come all the way to Saturn to save them, just to lose one now, he called back, continuing his descent. He reached the child and wrapped her in his jacket. Then he faced the impossible climb back up with his precious burden. The assembled humans and aliens watched anxiously. Even the Assembly representatives had come to observe. No one spoke as John struggled with each step, the child held tightly against his chest. Halfway up, the ground gave way beneath him. He slipped, started to fall, then found himself suspended in air. The golden-patterned Assembly representative, Lara, stood at the edge of the ravine with one hand extended. She was using some kind of technology or ability to hold John and the child in place. Slowly, she lifted them up and over the edge to safety. Dr. Ross rushed forward to take the child, who was cold but alive. And Lara looked at John, who was scratched and bruised from his climb. You risked your life for a child not of your species, she said. It wasn't a question, but her tone suggested surprise. John shrugged, wincing at the pain in his shoulder. She's a child. That's all that matters. The Assembly representatives left immediately after the rescue. They returned to their ship without explanation. Everyone assumed they were preparing their final judgment. The next morning, all 3 representatives returned. This time they requested a public meeting with both human and Valoran leaders. A stage was set up near the alien camp. Thousands gathered to hear what the assembly had decided. Would Earth be accepted? Would the Valoran be punished for breaking the contact rules? No one knew what to expect. And Lara spoke first, her voice amplified so all could hear. The Galactic Assembly has observed Earth for 17 days, she began formally. We have reviewed the circumstances of first contact. We have studied human society and behavior. She paused, looking out at the mixed crowd of humans and aliens. For 10,000 years, the Assembly has followed strict protocols regarding contact. With developing worlds, Earth was classified as pre-contact for at least 50 more years. Murmurs spread through the crowd. This didn't sound promising. However, and Lara continued, protocols exist to serve principles, not the other way around. The highest principle of the Assembly is to preserve and protect intelligent life in all its forms. She looked directly at John Miller, who stood with the search team from the previous night. Humans have demonstrated extraordinary qualities. When faced with alien vessels in distress, they did not hide or attack or demand payment. They helped without hesitation. They sacrificed to save others. When a child was in danger, they did not ask what species she belonged to before risking their lives. And Lara's golden patterns shifted more rapidly, suggesting strong emotion. The Assembly hereby recognizes Earth as a contact-level civilization, with all rights and responsibilities that entails. The crowd erupted in cheers. Humans and Valorans embraced. The president stepped forward to formally accept Earth's new status. And Lara wasn't finished. She raised her hand for silence. Further, the Assembly acknowledges that we have perhaps become too rigid in our thinking, too bound by protocol. We have forgotten what the Valoran commander called the human factor, the ability to see beyond rules to the needs of others. She gestured to her fellow representatives. We will recommend reforms to the Assembly protocols, and we will suggest that human representatives be included in future Assembly discussions.